Hi, I'm Tamar. You're tuned in to Soul Therapy Podcast, where we will explore and talk about what it's like being a business owner as a woman, fashion, art, what it's like being an immigrant, travel, and so much more. I invite you to join me in my journey. Salam, salam, everyone. This is Tamar with the Soul Therapy Podcast, sitting here with my girl, Asmara Belay. This is going to be a very intense and very emotional conversation, so bear with us. Still a bit hoarse, getting over bronchitis the last couple of weeks, so I apologize. You might hear a cough or even a silence in the middle, but um, we. So I called my girl kind of on a last minute uh, trip to Israel. My brother and my mom were traveling there, and I thought, oh my God, they're going to several countries before they get there. I have a couple of weeks. Why am I not going? Why am I not, building this memory with my mom? And I decided to go. I called my brother and I said, hey, what do you think? I know this is your trip between you and mom. And he was like, are you kidding me? Just come through. And I said, you know what? The first person that came to my mind was you. I don't know why. I mean, outside the fact that this girl travels all the time, um, a lot of times, a lot of times. But this was such, I don't know. I don't know what made me call her, but maybe this is God's way of working because I think He knows what we need in the time of when we need it, and sometimes we don't know how to explain it. But I called her and she said, give me the dates. I gave her the date and she said, book the flights. I said, word. That's really how it started.
Exactly. And it was at a time that I felt like you don't know what's going on. Everything at the time, I haven't discussed this.
Right.
Everything was going on with me, and you were going through some things that I didn't know
Absolutely.
everything.
Right.
And I feel like the spirits were like, okay,
They should
need
go
to
together.
they need to go and experience this trip.
Right.
And I feel like we knew it was going to be a spiritual trip, but we didn't know the extent of what was going to happen on a spiritual level and some other things, events that happened.
Yeah. So we, just to give you the context, we got there October 4th. We took off from here October 3rd. The whole bombing of Israel, from Hamas situation started October 7th, which is a Saturday. So we will get to that point, but just to give you the context of why this was, not only was it needed, but it was also a very challenging and dare to say maybe life altering experience. Absolutely. To a certain degree too. So the experience of visiting this holy land and the holiest land on the planet was probably the most powerful thing one could do in their lives, and I recommend it tremendously, although I don't know at what point anyone could do this, knowing what's going on that part of the world. However, taking this trip with my mom was such a profound experience. Seeing her face light up at every step of the way, um, having the camaraderie with my brother and with my friend. And we've had a lot of deep conversations, but I think this just topped it all. Like, this changed everything. Um, Many people think they know you, right? And they think you're this person. And I think because of what I do for a living, and I am a bubbly person and I'm very friendly and I'm very open. I'm not very much into cliques and things. I'm kind of very inclusive. However, my heart is not as open as everybody thinks there is, that it is. So this experience, whether I like it or not, and I think I've been open with her about a lot of stuff, but whether I like it or not, has changed our friendship in ways that I'm very blessed and very grateful that it did, because this is such an important trip to take. Um, Wednesday, we land there and we go to the hotel, which is about an hour from Tel Aviv.
To Jerusalem.
Yeah, we're in Jerusalem. And we get there and we meet my mom and my brother and we get our rooms together. And then they're like, do you want to take a break? Do you want to take a shower? Later, we're like, no, we're not wasting any time.
Let's go. Let's go see the city.
And then we happened to go to this small, adorable restaurant that became the crowd's favorite. I'm gonna let her tell you about the restaurant.
What's the name of the restaurant? I don't even remember.
I don't know. You took a picture because you take pictures and videos.
I do that.
Yeah.
We go to this restaurant that our driver kind of took us and recommended. We're just like, we're hungry. We're hungry after that long flight. we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what kind of food it was. We didn't get any kind of intel or depiction of like anything about this restaurant, but that it was good.
Oh,
We walked
it was
in.
so good.
Delicious.
Really good.
Team Greedy approved.
Yes.
So we walked in and they were very gracious. What was our server's name?
Hazem.
Hazem. And he recommended a few different dishes, and we all, of course, do how we do. We all order separate things, but we all dig in and we share. So we're just literally passing the plate.
African
That's just how we do. It's family style. It's how we grew up. It's part of the culture. And there was different kind of kebabs with different sauces. There was like this hummus with the meat, lentil soups.
Mike is probably hungry right
now. Sorry, Mike. We didn't bring you a plate. The food was delicious. The people were very sweet. Our server, he's like, come back anytime. And they were very also sweet to your mom.
Oh my God.
They carried her like they were so gentle with her.
And so gentle. Yeah.
So as we're eating and passing the plate, the chef is back there just cooking away, and we just smell all these aromas,
the tea, the mint tea, the nut tea.
It was delicious. So
that was our first experience of getting there and having, you know, that moment. But then what we didn't know was where that day was going to take us. And I think this is probably, and I'm getting chills already. The old city walls and gate where the Muslim quarter is, where the Jewish quarter is, and where and then the Christian quarter. And it's basically this huge, massive building, basically, if you can think of it, or a compound. And within that, there's a church. And this is literally one of the holiest, if not the holiest, church on this planet, for Christians at least. And that is, you know, I remember walking down these narrow alleys and there's spices and fruits and food and of course clothing and jewelry, all this stuff happening. And I remember our tour guide saying, you know, this is the alley that Jesus was carrying the cross
before he was crucified.
And I stood there and all of you guys kind of walked following him, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move. And by the time I turned around, you guys are like left me.
Because I had to,
I couldn't move. I just froze.
I had to get translated.
Oh, yeah. Do not speak one language.
So the language that our tour guide spoke was Amharic.
From her, yeah.
So she would have to translate it to Tigrinya. I could pick up pieces of the puzzle, and I know context of the Bible growing up in Sunday school and things like that. And I'm looking around, I'm like, this looks like it's something important, but I couldn't figure it out. And then when she told me, then I paused.
Then she paused.
I said,
yes.
Wait, what?
You know, there are many corridors to this alleyway, you know, that would take you into to go into the church. And at every stop, you know, the tour guide would say, oh, there are 14 stops before you get into the church, or before you actually walk into the church. And what they signified was another part that makes me chill, because I always think of when Mary was weeping, when he was being, you know, whipped, and he was carrying the cross. And like every, you know, these 14 points basically have something very significant historically for Christians alike. And that was like, I think every stop when he says, oh, this is the alley, when they put the thorns on his head. Like that just
gave you chills.
Oh my word. Like
you couldn't do nothing but pause and sit there like right here,
like right now. This is the space.
This is where it happened. And it was
2023 years ago. Jesus was on this alley, cobblestone, being beaten.
Exact.
And it literally changes your perspective. And I don't know why. And maybe not everybody will feel this. You know, maybe not everybody gets what we got out of it. I only hope that they could.
Yeah, because it's a realization. Like, one, you're visualizing. I'm visualizing Mary watching her son. This is her child. Yes, he was 33 years old, but that's still your child going through all this, and she knew this was going to happen.
Yeah. From
the very moment she was pregnant,
right?
And that she protected him from the beginning, her and Joseph. But walk the exact steps, or this is where he
to see
bled,
the alley.
or
This
to
is
be
this
clean.
exact spot was where he fell, and then they made, I forgot his name, and God forgive me and forgive me, mommy, because she's gonna be like, you should know his name. But they made somebody else carry his cross for a very short distance. When he said, "This is where Jesus fell," I was like, I just wanted
We
to
almost
crumble
fell.
up. Yeah, I just
We
wanted to
almost
crumble
fell.
up. Like, jeez. It is every step of this alleyway meant something. And that was a very powerful journey already.
Yes.
And to take in, and I remember, as talkative as we were, at one point nobody was talking. It was like a complete silence, even though around us was very busy, and around us it was a lot of like conversation. And then you walk into the church, and this church is where the crucifixion happened. This is the church in the hill, and then this is the church where he was buried. And then you come to a realization, like, time has gone backwards and transformed.
Pause.
Complete pause.
Because you're wrapped in the essence of, like, this is where this happened. You don't even realize, like, because growing up, you read the Bible, you hear the stories, you might even see a show in Sunday school, and they teach you this, and the pastor or the preacher teaches you that, and you're like, okay, this is what. So you kind of know it as more of events, and then you tie in your faith into it, but to actually be there, was this at all?
Yeah, it's a surreal experience. I remember once we went in, and we all focused on the tomb, and as we know, history would tell us that the complete tomb is not in there. It's a portion of the tomb. It's a good size, but this was the tomb that was donated by Joseph. This is where they buried him after they took him off the cross. And so there's this, just to give you a perspective, a small room. And we have some images that we will post along with this video so you can follow it. But there's a small, very tiny room. Now, if you know who I am, you know how tall I am. And if you don't know who I am, I'm 6 foot tall. I have a hair that has quite a bit of inch on it. Going into this room where the tombstone is, they get, you can't have cameras in there. So, obviously we respected their rules. But you have to really duck low, very low, to be able to get in.
Even for me, and I'm 5'6".
Yes, mommy's around your height at this point. Bone density is a horrible thing. She used to be a very tall woman back in the day, amongst her friends. But when I saw mom duck, and and they took my mom in because they noticed, her age. And one of the hosts there, the priest, he grabbed her hand and said, I'll walk her in, cut a lot of lines to get her in first, which we appreciated because we didn't mind standing in line, but we didn't want her to. And I remember him kind of touched her and pushed her head down so she knew to hit her head. And my heart kind of jumped because I appreciated his care and detail. But I was also like shivering when she went in because I really wanted to go in there with her. That was a very important moment for me because my mom is the reason. I am who I am, but my mom is the reason why I am who I am in a Christian and faith, right? Because she's shown me by example, and it was much easier to learn from her because of her examples and not being pushed to go to church. So that was never my mom. Of course, she would say, love for you guys to come, but it was never like an everyday badgering kind of thing. She just kind of let us be, but we followed, and so that moment would have been a perfect moment for me. But I've had many moments with her where I went into sacred places and I was able to pray with her. However, this particular thing, I was shivering. I couldn't talk to you or my brother about it because I was still like in my head, and I didn't even want to tell you about it because I could already see you were in that space. And when you and I went in, and I think my brother came with us too, right? I think it was like they allowed like 3 or 4 people to go in at a time because it's a small space, and you get to touch the tombstone, and you get to kneel down and put your head down and cry and pray. I don't know how long we were in there because it felt like we were there for 1 second, but then it felt like we were there for 20 minutes. I remember looking up, and you just happened to look up at the same time, and both of us were just
in tears.
Just complete surreal moment to praise him in this moment at this space, and to say sorry too for my God, all the wrongs that the world has done to him and all the wrongs that we continue to do to him as sinners. That was a special moment, Asmara.
Yeah. Oof.
I know.
Because I'm not even the type to like cry in public, and I told you this.
Yeah.
So as I've gotten older, I'm beginning to cry more and more and more, and it's okay to show my emotions, and I've learned that. But at that moment, it just came out.
You can't control
I couldn't control it. I didn't even know it was coming. We were in line waiting, and by the time we got up there, I'm like, it just
it hurts.
It hurt.
Yeah.
I didn't have breath at that moment. I just couldn't.
Same here.
I was trying to take it in and breathe it in, but it overcame me, and I just couldn't hold it in, and I just cried and prayed, and
Yeah. It was. I looked at my brother because you can't really stand fully in that space, right? Because it's like a short space. And I looked at my brother, and my brother had like tears in his eyes, and I don't even know if this dude realizes that he had tears in his eyes.
Really?
And of course, you don't call a guy out, right? You don't say that to a guy because then he's gonna go back into the shell. And I was just thinking to myself to even experience this with my brother, because my brother and I are similar in a lot of things, so we fight all the time. So we're always like cat and mouse, but. Yeah, exactly. But to actually experience this with him too, like that moment was, there's probably like 5 moments that I remember sharing with him, like in the present time, again, when we were there. I just remember looking at him and then he just shook his head and I said, I know. Like, how are we in this space right now? Like,
could hear.
His body was there.
He
like, and then before he, obviously, I mean, it is, and then we went to upstairs where he was crucified.
And actually touched where the bottom of the
cross was. That was another moment that, and my mom couldn't go up there because there was so many stairs,
and they were like high, like they weren't regular.
They were
steps.
Short and
uneven.
Yeah, it was like a weird, like
but it's again, it's back in the day.
But she said, go, and I said, Mommy, we're gonna I'm like trying to figure out like. If we carried her, how would we carry her? Would this be comfortable for her? And she said, no, I need you guys to go. She said, just go. And we went up there, and I remember you weren't around and you were videotaping it. And and I gave you this disclaimer ahead of time, and those that know me very well know that I remember a lot of stuff. Like I have an elephant brain. But I don't do, yes, and which it comes in very handy to blackmail them, but my friends, but I don't remember to take pictures and videos as much, and I made a point of this time to really do as much as I could when I'm not taking care of Mom, because that becomes my first priority.
We had homework.
Yes. My team said, please, grab all images, ma'am, please. I mean, this is Mike's word, ma'am. I'm going to need you to record stuff. And I really wanted to capture it because not just for the podcast, but for myself, because this is one of those trips that, I mean, now knowing what's going on there, I mean, what are the chances of me going back anytime soon? So the chances are very rare, right? But there were some things I felt like was so sacred that I also didn't want to. I don't know. Did you feel that way?
You kind of forget that you were that you're like you're not on vacation.
You're not. Which I said to you before we left. Because you said something about vacation. I was like, honey,
this is not
a vacation.
This is not a girl's trip. This is not a relaxed trip.
No.
This is a spiritual trip.
Yeah.
But you kind of forget that you get stuck in the moment so much where you don't realize all the stuff that's going around you where they're asking you to leave. Yeah. We need to quickly move this along because the procession was about to start.
Oh my gosh.
So all the other things that's going around, and I only remember that going back to the camera and the footage, like they're telling us stuff, and I'm so not even hearing them.
Yeah.
That we're just like, wait, what? What's going on? I'm sorry.
And then we heard the humming, and then it was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And you just like, you turn off that thing, and then you focus on them, and then you're back again. And I think we were present 100% of the time, but your mind wanders off to so many things within that space that you're in. And I think what I loved was learning things that I didn't know, or being reminded of things that I had forgotten that I learned when I was younger. So that was like, I was like, okay, I really need to go back to my Bible reading, like consistency.
One thing that I didn't know is where he was crucified on. Right under it is Adam and Eve's tomb. And I said, and they said, I was like, oh, this is Adam's tomb. And I'm like, Adam?
She looked at me and she goes, Adam.
I only know one Adam.
Because in our language, it's Adam. So every time the tour guide said Adam, she'll go, Adam. And I go, oh, and then I explain.
No, and I'm like, there's only one Adam. I don't remember another Adam. I could be wrong. And I'm just like, they're like, like Adam and A1. I was like, oh.
It's Adam and Eve, right?
Adam and Eve? This is his tomb. I said, well, where's Eve?
Remember, they had those metal, they look like what you see on the street for, irrigation or water to flow, whatever, into the gutter. And they had that opening. We were both trying to squeeze and see and take a picture. And it was like, I think we failed at this miserably because they created it that way. They did it that way.
On purpose.
And then that space when we went into where they kept Jesus before they put him on the cross, that little room, or not even a room, the little cubby, like I don't even know what to call it, but it was like an actual human. And I understand, 2023 years later, we're a lot bigger than they used to be. I get that part, but this thing was like
very short.
And then they had these two halls, if you remember, where they made him put his leg in, That was another one that kind of gave me the, even now I just feel.
It was a crawl space. It literally felt like a crawl. And I said, I'm sorry, they did what here?
Yeah. Another point of this church where the crucifixion and the burial has happened also is a very significant part of the story of completing those 3 points, right?
The last point.
The last point before he got buried. Right. So the Stone of Unction.
Right.
Which is this larger than life size of marble
looking slab.
Yeah, it's a huge marble. And they have these beautiful candles and lanterns hanging above them. And I was really trying to figure out, because the word we use in Amharic or in Tigrinya is very different, and so I really couldn't think of it in English. But my mom said, this is one of the points where you need to pray. This is where, once they took Jesus off the cross, as he was bleeding, they took the thorn off of his head and cleaned his body and wrapped him in the white cloth before he was buried.
And the stone absorbed his blood.
And the stone has absorbed his blood. So you get to go and you touch it. And that was another one for me. And we did it twice. The first time we walked in was an enormous amount of people.
So we just did a quick
touch, but something bothered me. And I told you guys, I want to go back to that because I didn't feel like I got what I wanted to get out of it. And I see people, putting their wallets and purses and bags. And I asked my mom, and she said, this is supposed to be a blessing of wealth and health and stuff like that. So I said, oh, I need the help.
Immediately.
And I went in with 2 hands on the second round. And my mom turns around and she goes, it's okay. You can rub your wallet on it too. And I was like, I'm not digging into my wallet. So I grabbed her bag.
Rubbed it in. We're going to get all these little blessings and all this blood. All around us, on us.
That moment when the second time we went around, and all of us were able to actually pray on this marble, I remember thinking to myself, like, we get a little cut and we get a little bumped, and how fast we fix our bodies, like, give me a Band-Aid, let me put alcohol on it so I don't get infection. Just imagine, 2023 years ago, our Lord and Savior was on this marble,
bleeding
from head to toe,
with nails, and puncture wounds and thorn wounds.
And as someone in the medical industry, you're sitting here like thinking in details, right?
People throwing rocks and berating you as you're walking down this long path of 14 points, and then you're officially gone from the world before you ascended, though,
right?
And you're just sitting there bleeding.
And your mother and your
over you and
father are, watching and obviously, weeping and when you are close to your mom, as we are to our wonderful moms, and we're very fortunate because not everyone is fortunate enough to have the kind of mothers that we have. We're very blessed,
as well as our village.
And our village, absolutely. It's such a surreal moment to reflect and say,
this is
what your mom would have felt like. And so you put yourself in Mary's place. And we're of age where we could have kids and could have kids, several kids, some of us more than others. But you think about that suffering for his mom, the crying, and then at the same time knowing who he was to the world, still letting him go. And I don't know,
and knowing it was going to come,
and knowing that he was coming back.
And then you can also put your attachment to that, looking at your mom, who even when you go through your highs and lows, your mom and your parents go through it with you, and they might not cry in front of you, but they definitely will go behind the scenes and pray for you, bless you, and those blessings have protected us from some things. I'm sure.
I live for those blessings, and I live for, I think we survived. And I saw this, and I may have sent it to you on social media, one of the social medias, I don't know. But it said, I know I am standing still because of my mom's prayers. And that hit me differently because I say that all the time. And it really, the connection with these spiritual trips is that you end up putting yourself in the space, and you are connecting with the people that you love the most and people that mean the most to you, and then you're kind of putting them in that position, like, what if this happened to somebody I love, like, how would I deal with it? And you take it differently, and then as a human being, you kind of go, oh my God, have I been a good human? Like, am I worth his death? Like, was I worth dying for? And you start to question yourself, and I think that's when you and I are not talking anymore and we're quiet. I think it's a moment of reflection.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize it when you're, I always say, especially in the U.S., it's always hustle and bustle, hustle, bustle. Very we got to go here, we got to do this, we got to do this. And it's constantly ongoing. So sometimes you don't have a moment to stop and reflect on, okay, let me thank God that I woke up. Let me thank God that I'm capable of doing X, Y, and Z. Yes, I might not be able to do everything that I'm doing, but I'm in the pathway or in the right direction of getting these goals or accomplishments or wishes or dreams possible.
Right.
Or even if you have your elements or your things, you're still able to thrive. So I think it's very important to definitely stop, reflect, whether you're writing in your journal to yourself, and be thankful and show grace and mercy to not only yourself, to God, and as well as share that to other people.
Absolutely. You've got to be a blessing to those that are maybe not traveling in the same path as you, but you have to be one yourself first, right? So I think this journey for our friendship is a very powerful one, because we got to walk on something. And again, at the beginning you said you didn't know that I was going through something, and I was going, I didn't know you were going through something. For me, it's always a health thing, right? So I've always struggled with health. So that was, it was a tough week the week before. And I remember saying, to myself, I'm going to the holiest of holiest place on earth. There is nothing that can possibly stop me from going on this trip. And I would have gone with a cane and a wheelchair if I needed to, because I knew, my mom is 86 and nothing is guaranteed, and we don't know who's going to go first. But obviously, we always assume the older they are, like, we're terrified and worried about that. But I knew this trip was going to change me. And I knew that it was going to create a memory for me with my mom first and, foremost. So that was, like, already a thing. But then to, like, have you and my brother be there too, it was, I don't know, it was special. Not
the haircut.
Yeah.
Definitely special. I definitely don't ever want to be the person to get to a point in my life where I cannot move around and be as mobile as I am now and not see the work.
Yeah. That's very important to the both of us.
To experience it. Yeah. We don't want to wait till retirement, because even at this age, I still needed naps. We needed some naps or breaks. But we still were able
10 hours and 12 hours straight
in one day
to
see different points and different, whether points in the Bible or eating food or just seeing the cities and the people and the culture.
And there's so many things we did in between these amazing major, spiritual points. But we got to see one of the oldest Ethiopian church.
Absolutely.
And that was really, really like, that meant something because it's in the church. So, or it's right outside the church. It's in the gate, but it's right outside of the church, where
I didn't expect to see it. I said, oh, wait.
And they've been there for a very long time. And there were so many different places we went to that I was showing somebody I brought a holy something for someone. And I was showing her, and I was telling her in one of the places we visited in Bethlehem, they had areas where Mary was depicted as the person from that country. So there was an Asian one.
That was in Nazareth.
I thought that was that in Nazareth?
That was in Nazareth.
I don't understand. That's where she's from. Together. Yes, true.
That's true. And Joe.
True. And Joseph. Let's just say Joseph, ma'am.
There's another Joseph, but we're not talking about him.
Well, names are very much repeated during those times, and they really didn't explore different names. They stayed. So there's several Marys and several Josephs. Yeah, that's why I always say Virgin Mary, because I always want to make sure I'm specific about who I spoke about. But it was really interesting to see that.
Whether they're Korean or Filipino or Spanish
or
Ethiopian.
Oh my God, it was so beautiful. Just keeping the features from each country. I thought that was really respectful for them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because we've got to get to a point, and we're never going to agree on the shade of our creators. But for some of us, it's much more important to look at someone that look like us.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't grow up with that, unfortunately, but it's changing. Our churches have converted into bringing those, so I'll give them kudos for that.
Amen.
Ah, woo woo woo.